You know, isn't it funny how the super wealthy always get off from their crimes and their criminality? Let's take for an example Alex Jones, the right-wing talk show host who came up with the Sandy Hook conspiracy and sent his nutballs after the people, threatening them, bothering them at their homes after having a child killed by a gunman. And he was supposed to get around $143 million fine for that. But they ended up giving him a $4.1 million fine. And on his right-wing radio show, he can probably make that in about 3 days, 4 days. No problem at all. But that seems to be the way life is here in the U.S. Wealthy conspiracy nuts get off with everything, just like Donald Trump, who's had so many close calls with the law, and he always ends up getting away with it. Well, we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to go up here and do a video. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is plastic pollution and what it does to bird life here in the world of Earth. Birds from every continent have been photographed nesting or tangled up in plastic pollution. Now, this happens in many different ways. The big one is when birds feed along the waterways, they end up going about 100 feet in the air and they dive down after a fish or some kind of food or some plastic they think is food, and they get tangled up. They dive right through plastic and end up getting tangled up in some kind of plastic pollution, such as this poor bird who got tangled up in a face mask. Now, how does a face mask, an old face mask, end up getting thrown into the water? Well, people will take them off after medical exam, throw them onto the street, and they'll blow down into the water, wherever your nearest water is. It could be the bay, it could be the ocean, it could be the lake or a river. And then it travels until a bird ends up diving through it and ends up wearing it for the rest of its life, because a lot of these face masks are made of plastic. The same thing goes for Coke, for soda can holders, the 6-packs. They instead of breaking them apart, people just leave them and throw them on the ground, and they end up washing into the water, and birds end up snagged up in these 6-pack holders. Another big problem is fishing nets and fishing line. This is a big problem because fishermen always throw their old used fishing nets overboard, and they end up, because they're made of plastic, floating. Birds dive through it and get caught up in it. Either a piece of the fishing net or a piece of fishing line. Now, fisher people end up getting tangled onto the bottom of wherever they're fishing, and so they pull until the line breaks. Well, then they've got fishing line that's floating on the water. It's pretty much tangled up because when it breaks, it springs back and tangles itself. And then the birds end up diving through it to get the food, and they end up wearing it for the rest of their lives, which may be very short-lived because they can't open their beak or something. Many pieces of plastic are thrown down on the ground or put in a garbage receptacle, and then the wind comes along and empties the garbage receptacle and ends up blowing all this stuff down in our waterways. They also get tangled up in their feet because people throw so much junk down on the street thinking that somebody else will clean it up, and they don't, and the birds will walk over the plastic and get tangled up in their feet. And remember, birds don't have hands and arms that allow them to get rid of this stuff. It just stays there, tangled up on them forever. And they slowly starve to death, or they can't fly anywhere, or they're stuck in that area, and they can't feed themselves or anything else, so they have a very slow death. It's really horrible what plastic pollution is doing all over the world, from the bottom of the oceans to the top of the oceans to the top of Mount Everest. There are plastic pollution everywhere, and we the people who are using it and throwing it away, and that's a really big problem. On another subject, I wanted to thank everybody who is a nice environmentalist, who cares about their planet and is doing all the right things to keep our planet green and growing and all. And a lot of people on this channel are like that. They're environmentalists and they really care about the planet. So I thank you guys and appreciate all you. And so not all my criticism is meant for everybody on the channel. And it's not really criticism, it's education, so that people will understand what's happening with our planet. planet and what we can do about it. I'll put some more pictures up for you guys to look at so you can understand what's happening to our bird population around the world and how cruel this is to leave plastic unattended or even buying plastic. I appreciate all the ups, the new comments, and definitely the new subscribers. It's you guys that make the channel happen. And until next time.